Something happened in Austin that Ferrari doesn't want to talk about. On the final lap of the United States Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton suddenly lost pace, his voice tense over the radio. "I felt like I hit something." The SF25 refused to turn, the steering went heavy, and for a moment everyone thought Ferrari was about to lose P4 on the very last straight. Oscar Piastri was closing in, fast, but Hamilton held it. No panic, no mistake, just pure instinct keeping the car alive. After crossing the line, Ferrari engineers searched for answers. Telemetry didn't match the radio, no puncture, no debris, just something that shouldn't have happened. Inside Maranello, whispers started. Was it a setup glitch, a damaged floor, a sensor error, or something deeper? A miscalculation Ferrari tried to hide. Hamilton didn't accuse anyone. He just asked a question that echoed through the garage. "What's going on?" And that's where the silence began. When Hamilton returned to the garage, the atmosphere was off. No one spoke first. Mechanics avoided eye contact. Engineers stared at the floor screens longer than usual. Something in the data didn't add up. Ferrari's post-race logs showed no damage, no puncture, no pressure loss. Yet Hamilton had felt the front suddenly give way, like I hit something. Every driver knows that feeling. It's mechanical, it's real, but the SF25 sensors claimed nothing was wrong. Then, a quiet conversation started behind closed doors between Hamilton's race engineer and performance chief. A private review of Hamilton's telemetry, and one chart froze them both. A sudden loss of downforce, then a split-second recovery, almost like the car's aerobalance had changed in itself. The internal report labeled it instability anomaly, but Hamilton's response was simpler. If it happened once, it can happen again. He wasn't angry, he was curious, and that's what scares Ferrari most, because curiosity from Hamilton means investigation, and when he starts investigating, secrets don't stay buried for long. By Monday morning, Ferrari's media briefing had one mission: control the story. They framed the incident as a minor steering imbalance. Nothing dramatic, nothing mechanical, just a temporary loss of front grip. But insiders knew that wasn't the truth. The SF25 had shown the same anomaly before, during a simulator run weeks earlier. Back then, it was dismissed as a software glitch. Now, it had happened at 300 km/h with Hamilton behind the wheel. Ferrari's engineers scrambled to rewrite the narrative. They issued a statement praising Hamilton's resilience and feedback precision. But inside Maranello, the tension was growing. One senior engineer privately admitted, "We don't fully understand what the car did in turn 5. Hamilton, however, wasn't pointing fingers, he was asking questions, the kind that make team principals nervous. Why was the front balance so unpredictable? Why did the simulation not match the real-world feedback? And most of all, why did Leclerc's car show no trace of the same problem? To Ferrari, it was just another post-race debrief. To Hamilton, it was the start of an investigation, and this time he wouldn't stop until he uncovered the real cause. 2 days after Austin, an anonymous voice inside Ferrari spoke up. A quiet message landed on a journalist's encrypted inbox. One line that would light up every F1 forum. Hamilton's car wasn't the same as Leclerc's. The claim was explosive, and while Ferrari rushed to deny it, something about the tone of that email felt authentic, too specific, too technical. Rumors swirled that one of Hamilton's own performance analysts had raised concerns after spotting inconsistencies in aerodynamic load data between the two cars. In particular, a strange drop in front downforce on Hamilton's SF25 that didn't exist on Leclerc's. When the message reached Hamilton, he didn't react publicly, but those close to him say his tone in the next briefing changed completely. No frustration, no emotion, just focus. If we're chasing perfection, we need to start with transparency. Ferrari's engineers froze. That wasn't a complaint, it was a challenge. Because when Hamilton talks about transparency, it means he's already found the pattern, and once he connects the dots, even Maranello's walls can't contain the truth. Thursday morning, Ferrari HQ. A private meeting was called, attendance mandatory. Fred Vasseur, Leclerc, Hamilton, and the core engineering team gathered in a conference room lined with telemetry charts. On the screen, 2 laps, Leclerc's, Hamilton's, identical setups, supposedly, but the traces told another story. Hamilton's car showed a sudden error drop in turn 5, then recovery. Leclerc's? Flat and stable. Hamilton didn't raise his voice, he didn't need to. "You call that identical?" he asked, leaning back in his chair. The silence that followed was unbearable. Someone coughed, another pretended to take notes. Vasseur finally broke it. "We'll look into it further." But Hamilton didn't flinch, he simply nodded and said, "No problem, I'll bring my own data to Mexico." It wasn't a threat, it was a statement. Ferrari realized in that moment that Hamilton wasn't just their driver, he was their auditor. And if there was one thing they feared more than a slow car, it was a driver who understood why. When the meeting ended, Leclerc left first. He didn't speak to Hamilton. He didn't have to. The tension said everything. For years, Maranello had revolved around him. The golden driver, the emotional core, the Italian favorite. But things were changing, quietly, relentlessly. Hamilton had walked in with calm authority, no PR smiles, no excuses, just facts. And in a culture built on pride and politics, that kind of clarity was unsettling. One mechanic whispered to another, "He doesn't shout, he doesn't blame, that's why they listen." Leclerc noticed it too. The engineers who once gathered around his monitor were now clustered near Hamilton's workstation. Discussions were quieter, deeper. Ferrari's mood had shifted from defensive to analytical, and the spark came from the British side of the garage. That night, Leclerc vented to a friend over dinner in Monaco. He's turning the team into Mercedes, everything by numbers, no feeling. But what Leclerc saw as coldness was discipline. Hamilton wasn't trying to replace him, he was trying to redefine Ferrari. And deep down, Leclerc knew, if the team started believing in Hamilton's methods, his influence in Maranello would never be the same again. Friday morning, in Austin's aftermath, the lights in Ferrari's data room burned earlier than usual. 3 engineers, 1 from aerodynamics, 2 from power unit analysis, were reviewing traces under Hamilton's request. He wasn't there physically, but his presence filled the room. He had left notes written in his precise, engineer-like handwriting. Cross-compare front wing load dropped from turn 5 to turn 8. Check correlation with floor pressure recovery. No blame, no speculation, just direction. For the first time, Ferrari's internal chat groups were buzzing, not about politics, but about performance. Hamilton had turned suspicion into structure. His insistence on reviewing every anomaly wasn't an attack, it was leadership without permission. One junior analyst whispered, "He's teaching us how to think like champions again." When the final overlay was complete, the truth emerged, a small aero imbalance caused by micro damage to the front wing flap, likely from a curb vibration earlier in the race. Ferrari had missed it during the pit stop. Hamilton felt it instantly. That level of sensitivity impressed even his critics. In a single weekend, he had exposed both the weakness of the car, and the complacency of a system. And now, the engineers weren't defending their data. They were defending his trust. By Sunday night, the paddock had already moved on. Reporters chased Verstappen's victory quotes. McLaren's garage buzzed with optimism. Ferrari, silent. But inside that silence, something irreversible was happening. Hamilton stayed behind long after the media packed up. One light still glowed above the Ferrari pit wall. He stood there alone, watching mechanics dismantle the SF25 piece by piece. No anger, no frustration, just focus. He recorded a short voice memo, not for PR, not for the team, but for himself. "If they can't see it yet, I'll make them." That calm defiance was the moment everything shifted, because while the world saw P4 as another near miss, inside Maranello, it had become a statement of control. Hamilton wasn't adapting to Ferrari anymore. Ferrari was adapting to him. The next morning, an internal email went out to all technical staff. Effective immediately, all post-race reports will include driver sensory feedback correlation. That was Hamilton's phrase, his rule, his way. The revolution didn't start with shouting, it started with data, with patience, with proof. And as he boarded the flight to Mexico, one thing was clear. The Ferrari that landed there wouldn't be the same one that left Austin.